We up and running now? Alright. Yeah, man. That guitar is nothing short of amazing. Listen, that's so nice. Add a rewind it. That guitar too sweet. Hi folks, how y'all doing? Evening Debbie, evening Janelle, Charlene, Penny. Hi Rosalind, hi Maria. Thank you so much for joining me. It's nice to see you all. It's been a long day. Hi folks. I had meeting after meeting, then from meeting to class, and then from class to here. And in between that, I've been trying to follow, what has been taking place on social media and what people talking about and that kind of thing. So I know that this week we hot with talk about Michael B. Jordan and Juve Rum, and that has been the thing that dominating the airwaves. But yesterday, an icon passed, a titan passed. I mean, I started off with music from one of his songs, Winford Joker Devines, and actually, let me just show you guys a photograph of him, a picture of him, and then towards the end of the program, I'll come back in towards the end of the program, and we're just going to listen to snippets of some of my favorite songs from him. I have like a list of about 8. I have a list of about 8 songs here, and we're going to just listen to some snippets because, I mean, I can't play the whole song on this, cut licensing, blah, 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 blah. But let me say good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And let me get into a couple of the things that would have happened this week, some of it that happened today, and you're just kind of looking on and you're thinking to yourself, what on earth really taking place here? So Winford Devines would have gone from 1943 to 2021, passed away yesterday, or it might have been day before yesterday. And, I have to pay tribute to an icon. The gentleman in question would have written over 500 songs, and it's some big tunes. So when we look at his music later on in the program, that's how I'm wrapping things up. I'm tying it up with, some good vibes and some nice feelings, because I feel I'm going to be starting the thing up with some kind of souring vibes and feelings. So let we get into it, right? Let we bunks starter. Why am I hearing all that set of reggae in the background there, boy? Like it has somebody playing reggae. So there was a debate in Parliament this afternoon, and the Prime Minister would have weighed in during Prime Minister's questions. And Prime Minister's questions today were pretty heated because Rodney Charles was there, and Dave Tanku was there, and David Lee was there, and they were trying their very best to get under the Prime Minister's skin. And this happened in the people and them Parliament.
I have stated to this country before, unlike the other leader in this house, I told the country, unlike the other leader in this house, I told the country when I was diagnosed as a positive patient with COVID-19, I told the...
So I hear this clip and I was like, wait. Is the Prime Minister suggesting that the opposition leader had COVID and didn't tell us that she had COVID?
country when I was in isolation. I told the country when I can be vaccinated. The Minister of Health actually told the country the date on which I can be vaccinated. So to come here today and ask me if I took vaccine from the 400, you are just a mischief maker, and that is your pen.
Listen, Heath, Heath.
Go and find out from your leader when she took it and when she got COVID.
So it was a bit there at the end, them last couple words. Go and find out from your leader when she took it, referring to the Pfizer vaccine, and when she got COVID. I was like, I was shooketh. I was shooketh. So it ain't long.
I have stated to this country before, unlike the other leader in this house, I told the country when I was diagnosed as a positive patient with COVID-19.
You see, unlike the other leader in this house, I told the country when I was diagnosed with COVID-19. You'll remember a couple weeks ago right here, I played a clip where Kirk Megu was interviewing Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and Kamla indicated on the clip that yes, she had done a COVID test, and I had asked, who does take random COVID tests? Why would anybody just randomly take a COVID test? There are only a handful of reasons for why you would take a PCR test. You take the PCR test if you had to travel, because you need to be able to prove to persons that you could get out of one country and get into another country. All right, that is when you take the PCR test once you're traveling. Here, I believe locally, some people will have to take the PCR tests now if they're going into specific spaces and locations, because I've heard friends of mine talk about having to go down to specific locations and they have to take a PCR test before they could get on to the site. And this would be like energy sector things. And of course, you take a PCR test if you think you have symptoms and you suspect you have COVID. So then, when the opposition leader had talked about having taken a PCR test, I wondered, so how is it nobody thought to ask certain follow-up questions, like why did you take the PCR test? What were the circumstances that prompted you to take the PCR test? And what was the nature of the PCR test? Was it positive? Was it negative? None of those things happened in that interview, because of course it's a program that is being handled by her PR officer, Kirk Megu, and so nothing like that was asked at all. And then she indicated that her husband had taken the vaccine, but she did not reply or clarify whether she had taken the vaccine. So I thought, well, but Parliament was hot today. This is only a part.
I told the country when I was in isolation. I told the country when I can be vaccinated. The Minister of Health actually told the country the date on which I can be vaccinated. So to come here today and ask me if I took vaccine from the 400, you are just a mischief maker, and that is your pen. Go and find out from your leader when she took it and when she got COVID.
Go and find out from your leader when she took it and when she got COVID. Oh my word. But of course, the opposition did not leave it there, right? So the opposition responded this afternoon, and we are going to take a look at this response from the opposition. And we had to take a look at this response from the opposition because of what it says, right? The way in which language is being used and why language is being used in that way. If you all get a chance, go and look at the rest of the Prime Minister's questions from today. This is just a short clip. It would be roughly the first 15 to 20 minutes of the sitting this afternoon. It was a very interesting Prime Minister's question session because it focused a lot on COVID-19 vaccination. It also focused on relief, salary relief grant and payment for vaccines. It was very informative. It was also very, very lively because it was back and forth. But I wanted to give all this little clip here about go and find out from your leader when she had COVID or did not have COVID. Where's this thing? Why it always there getting in my way? All right, I got to move. I'll be checking things on my computer here. Right, where that letter, boy? Where that special letter? Oh my word, this letter is gold. So let me check out the letter. And what is important for you? I mean, there are a number of things that are important. Rhoda, come on, try your best. Don't be a not foolishness this afternoon. Yes, Wendy Prosper, you're absolutely right. There were a number of questions about patriotic and the oil refinery, and those questions were being answered. The first 20 to 30 minutes, if only have a half an hour to spare, take a look at a half an hour. Prime Minister's questions is always very interesting. So this letter was issued this afternoon, right? And I would imagine that it was written by Kirk Megu, because he's the only person I know does have like a whole paragraph as the title for a letter, that sort of thing. So it was released this afternoon, and it claims that these are the words of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. But I want you all to look at the language and the way language is being used, and then we're going to break it down, right? Because you all know me, I just like to deconstruct things. Rowley's creepy infatuation with me hit a new level of weirdness today when he stood in Parliament and lied to the country that I had COVID-19. I am sorry to disappoint my devoted admirers in PNM, but I don't have COVID, and I never did. Almost 800 people have died from COVID-19. Rowley must stop dreaming about me and do his job! ! Keith Rowley today again lied to the country under parliamentary privilege when asked the serious question of whether or not he was vaccinated from the supply of Pfizer vaccines that entered the country secretly. There are no Pfizer vaccines that entered the country secretly. We were told about the Pfizer vaccines last week or week before last week that would have been brought in via the U.S. Embassy and via the U.S. Embassy, and some of it being gifted to the Ministry of National Security. But there is a persistent narrative coming out of the opposition recently that insists that it was some secret thing that has taken place and the country don't know about it, and there is the repetition of misinformation, the repetition of a lie. So of course that the lie will take traction, and this is like regular normal tactics with the United National Congress these days. He again is the same foolishness with them and vaccination rollout and whether or not people should pay attention to the healthcare sector. I mean, there's a lot of fake news, a lot of misinformation, a lot of distortion of information, so that of course the listening public gets confused, doesn't know who to listen to, and they will then just listen to whichever message is the easier message to run with. And of course, when you're deciding to run with the easier message, you run with a message that appeals to emotion, not to logic. And you run with a message that is really simple to understand in terms of language. And that's what happens here in this press release. He again refused to answer the simple question of whether he took the secret Pfizer vaccine. Instead, Rowley's infatuation with me hit a new level of weirdness when he stood in Parliament and lied to the country that I had COVID-19. What's next? Will Rowley start writing creepy emails about me? Oops, been there, done that. I'm so sorry to disappoint my devoted admirers in PNM, but I don't have COVID, and I never did. Over the last 6 years, Keith Rowley has had no Patrick Manning to hide behind, and thus the country now sees him for the impotent man he is. Almost 800 people have died from COVID-19. Rowley must stop dreaming about Kamla and do his job. So this is really, really curious, right? It's curious, but it's dangerous. And it's something that the sitting government, I would think, need to pay attention to. If you all have communications persons that are speaking to you, that are advising you, that are doing that's handling your messaging, they need to sit down and take a look at this press release and understand what the United National Congress is attempting here with this press release. Because you see, the dumbed down language, the fact that they're not using language that is formal, they've done away with formal language entirely. This reads like the diary entry of a 13 or 14-year-old girl. This reads like the sort of post a teenager, a really, 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 really young, emotionally immature teenager would put up on social media about her friend, and a friend that she vexed with or angry with, right? Or so somebody she knows that she vexed with, she angry with. So it is a press release that is meant to dumb down its readers, one, right? So whoever is reading these things on social media is meant to dumb down the readers even further, so that anything complex, anything complicated, you put out a press release that is using language that is more complex and more complicated than this press release, people are going to start to ignore it. So this isn't accidental. It's not accidental at all. It is meant to dumb down listeners, dumb down readers, and get people tired and fed up of reading anything that is complex, complicated, fact-based, information-driven. And that's what you need to bear in mind. That if you start seeing press releases that look like this all the time, and then you have other press releases that are using more formal language, longer sentences, proper paragraphs, you are going to ignore those press releases and you are only going to focus on these press releases. Why? Because the press release eventually is going to be so simplistic, so simplified, so full of bacchanal, right? And source that you're not interested in reading anything that sounds serious and sounds weighty. This is what you're going to show up and want to read. I mean, look at it. Rhetorical questions, exclamation marks, right? A lot of hyperbolic language, a lot of exaggerated language, and then things, what's next? Oops, been there, done that. That's the writing of a child. That's not the writing of a 60-something-year-old former prime minister, opposition leader, MP. That's not the writing. This is the sort of thing that you would find in clickbait articles. That's what this press release is. It's a clickbait press release. And the government needs to be very, very, very careful, because this is the next step in the dumbing down of not just the UNC voting base, but the population. Because I am putting it to you, if it's a situation where you have to read a heavily worded press release versus something that sounds like the Facebook post of a teenage girl, you'll read the Facebook post of a teenage girl faster than you will read a Facebook post. Much faster. When I say much faster than you will read a heavy, weighty, information-based Facebook post. So you need to understand that somebody who gave herself silk, who attended a law school, who has a university degree, who has got up in the parliament for however many decades now, contributing to debates, who has acted as, who has functioned as Attorney General and Minister of Education and whatever else here. These are the levels she's stooping to dumb down a population. But it's not Kamla Persad-Bissessar alone that's doing this. All of her other agents, let's call them agents on social media, have begun to do much the same. Their posts read like the posts that adolescents, right, that teenagers will put up. It's always a lot of ranting and raging and silly, very, 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 very silly, simplistic sort of ideas and ideology being put out. Now, I don't plan to spend like the rest of my year, far less, well, certainly not the rest of my life, but I don't plan to spend weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months pointing out to you all the techniques that the opposition uses. You all know me. I've been looking at them since the Cambridge Analytica issue. I've been pointing out the techniques that they have been using a good 5 years now. Whether it's on this live or just on my pages on social media, I have been pointing out how they have been using misinformation and social media as a way to distort narratives and create confusion and chaos in the minds of the population. But this decision of Kirk Migu as a grown man with a PhD to resort to this kind of language, this is so interesting. Like, this is a whole case study. Like, somebody needs to do a PhD on Kirk Migu. I swear to God. So there is that letter that Kirk Migu would have written on behalf of Kamla Prasad Bisesa, because I doubt very much that Kamla writes anything for her own self. So there's that. But there's also this that I wanted to get into. I wanted to get into, actually, before I do that, let me go up and see if I can find a photograph. I should have a photograph in here. Give all you a little bit of backstory into Homegirl, and then after I do the backstory into Homegirl, come and tackle Homegirl properly and efficiently. Why are you taking me so long to... there we go. So... Rashid Mohammed, you need to stop sliding into my inbox when the day come to be telling me things. I'm not interested in, faceless trolls. So stop jumping into my inbox when the day come. You're a little sickening with that. I'm not interested in you. You're not cute. I only like cute men. And you need to have nice legs. So if you're cute and you have nice legs, yeah, you could slide in my inbox. If you're not cute and don't have nice legs, and I love chocolate skin. If you do not have chocolate skin and you do not have nice legs, do not slide into my inbox, Rashid. We're not about that quack life. Okay, so y'all should know who this lady is, right? This is Suzette Lowe. Now, for a very long time, I didn't know anything about Suzette Lowe. But the person that gave me the most reliable, relevant information where Suzette Lowe is concerned is, believe it or not, I don't know if to say former commissioner of police, but the person who most recently has functioned as commissioner of police, Gary Griffith. Gary was the person to give me the most reliable and relevant information where Suzette Lowe is concerned. And I'm saying this because I don't want people to think that I am speaking in a vacuum, right? Because I'm not speaking in a vacuum, ever. So I would have had a conversation with Gary sometime in 2018 thereabouts, because Suzette was kicking up a lot of fuss on social media. I can't even remember what the fuss was about, but somehow my name was calling in her mouth. So I was there, and Gary messaged, and he indicated to me that Suzette Lowe was actually an agent of a current sitting MP, right? So it's somebody who is an MP in the House right now. And it's an MP who is sitting down in the House right now. Is an opposition MP, right? So an opposition MP who is sitting in the House right now, who don't want Kamla Prasad Bisesa to be political leader of the United National Congress, apparently is Suzette Lowe's handler, right? So he gives Suzette instructions. He tells Suzette who to go after. He tells Suzette who to attack. And he tells Suzette when to apply pressure to the political leader of the United National Congress and when to pull back from applying pressure on the political leader of the United National Congress. So in exchange for her applying pressure to the political leader of the United National Congress, Suzette would have been told, apparently, that she would get an ambassadorship. Now, this is what was told to me, right? I considered putting up screenshots of the conversation, but then I said to myself, if I put up screenshots of the conversation, there are other things that Ollie would be seeing in between there. And it's too much thing to have to block off, right? Too much thing to have to block off. But the point is, I was told by Gary in a WhatsApp conversation about 2 years ago. I think it's 2019. So last year 2020, right? 2019, I feel we had the conversation. And basically, she has a handler. Her handler is sitting in the opposition right now in the People Parliament. And that handler just tell her who to attack and who not to attack. And what to say and what not to say, because that particular handler is actually and actively interested in being political leader of the party himself. And because he wants to be political leader of the party himself, he needs somebody to attack the current political leader and to attack strategically. Now, I know that she will deny it. I don't have an issue with her denying it because, like I said, this is information that I would have gotten from a third party. It's not information that I got from her specifically, from her directly, but the person was indicating to me that this is why she functions and behaves the way she functions and behaves on social media. So I said, you know what? It is what it is. If your whole purpose in life is to come out and attack people for the sake of attacking people, or because you've been told attack, and after you have attacked, this is how you're going to be rewarded. Because what I was also told is that, she was promised a specific position as a reward, right? So that is the backstory to myself and Suzette. Because when I was told this, I then put up a post on social media saying, but nobody can tell me that this is who Suzette Handler is and blah, 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 blah. And she get real tense because she went quiet for a little bit. And then after that, she come out and was saying a set of things, right? So I wanted you all to get that particular piece of backstory between myself and Suzette, because Suzette put up this post a couple days ago. And real people send screenshots of the post to me because I don't see Suzette on Facebook, right? You'll have plenty of people I don't see on Facebook. Such is life. And that's all right. I don't beat up about it. So Suzette put up this post. Now, it's one thing if you come out and you're saying all kind of vague, nasty things. Because when people come out and they say vague, nasty things, she's you all know the things they tend to attack me with, right? So either they're talking about my looks, or they're talking about my teeth, or what else is talk about? Oh, well, everybody's still talking about me working NLCB, even though the last time I had anything to do with NLCB would have been sometime last year, like middle of the year last year, like before the middle of the year last year. Because if I'm not mistaken, the last time I had anything to do with NLCB was May 2020, right? But because that's like the only information, because I don't want to say dirt, because there are no dirt involved there at all. I have a very, very, very specific set of skills. You all know what my specific set of skills are. I'm damn good at research. I'm damn good at handling things. I'm damn good at dealing up with crises, right? And I'm real good at coming and breaking down information for the public. So I have a very, very peculiar set of skills. And from time to time, different people, different organizations reach out to me to say, Rhoda, we have need of your peculiar set of skills. So, since people have need of my peculiar set of skills, what do? As an intelligent young woman, I sell those skills. Because there are people who will, you have a best body and you decide to sell your best body. You have a brain, you go and you decide to sell your brain. I come up with great ideas. I'm really good at research. You could hire yourself out as a researcher, as a fixer, as a crisis manager, as, any number of things. And I doing my work. I'm making my paper. And I'm making my paper without having to, whoo, right? Nobody had a, whoo, no. And the thing is, if that is your game, if when the day or night or evening come, you had a, whoo, to make a paper, you make a paper, right? Make your paper, right? You run your poetries, me not have a problem with anybody running. Everybody have a hustle. Everybody have a griff. Everybody have a whole game, right? Everybody have a whole game. If Suzette whole game is to attack people on social media to make she little money when the man come, me a vex with you. I a vex with you. You do your thing, right? You do your thing. So this post got sent to me, and I looked at the post and I said to myself, at first, I wasn't even taking it on because they sent it to me, and I was like, what yeah? So no, okay. So Suzette get up and she decide that she going to post up a set of foolishness again. But then I said, You know what? This here is a teachable moment. So I want you all to follow with me on this particular post that Suzette put up. And we're going to talk about how Suzette conflates information, how she lies, and how she puts misinformation out into the public domain, phrases it as questions, but really and truly, what she's doing is sharing a lot of fake news. So you all know me. I will never come here just to bad talk Suzette. I come in here to make sure I teach all you how to deal up with hoes like Suzette. Plain and simple. Right? So here we go. Which side of this thing I put in myself, boy? Because I want to make sure, yeah, let me small up myself here. Okay, good. Ah, boy. The live billing, Olin, tell me the live billing. 1,351 people on the live. Somebody tell Winston Ragu the live bill. Right. So let's go. I find it interesting that Colm Imbut used his political office. Let me zoom a bit. Yeah. Right. I find it interesting that Colm Imbut, I need to small up myself. Right. Used his political office to secure a job for Rhoda Barrett and pays her to manage his Facebook page. But she's criticizing Gary Griffith's involvement in securing a position for his son on a football team. But then again, I'm not a hypocrite for hire. So, okay. So let's go through this slowly, right? You all know me. We likes to break it down. Number one, I am not aware. As a matter of fact, I am not aware. Me handling no politician Facebook page. And you know why I'm not handling no politician Facebook page? Because that's not my work. I don't do things like that. Listen, that's so trivial and not funny. And that just goes to show you how Suzette and them think. Because Suzette and they will pause and they will judge people based on their own standards. So Suzette knows that when the day come, she getting paid to handle Facebook pages, to handle fake accounts, right? I can only imagine that was taking place there for her to assume that about me. So maybe she is being paid to manage Facebook pages. Me? No. Nobody could say I'm managing a Facebook page for them at all. Not even their Facebook account, nothing. The level I am at with the game is to give people advice about how to handle issues like this. Not to run people's social media account. The ass. All you think as a maid? No, as not nobody maid. And then she goes and she conflates the thing by saying, I am criticizing Gary's involvement in securing a position for his son on a football team. Now, one, Imbut doesn't pay me to handle any Facebook pages. Two, what does that have to do with the questions raised about Griffith possibly using TTPS money to influence selection of his son to the Trinidad and Tobago national men's team? What does one thing have to do with the other? And why is Suzette acting as if those two things are one and the same things, and as if what Wired 868 has alleged that Griffith might have done, why is she acting as if that kind of corruption, alleged corruption, is an acceptable thing? So the minute I looked at that, where the 2 points have nothing to do with each other, I realized, oh, this quenk about that mischief post life. Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph, where she begins to attempt to gaslight. Now, let me tell you something. Nobody could gaslight me. Like, nobody could gaslight me. The minute you start gaslighting or you start attempting to gaslight me, I just stop and I just fold my arms and I just watch you and I just be thinking in my head, this motherfucker is trying to gaslight me. And I ain't talking about Urvashi when I'm talking about this motherfucker. I'm talking about whoever, whichever motherfucker. Oh, I should let you all know. The language likely to get a little bit spicy this evening, right? So Suzette goes on with, can't wait to see how week-long expose on Calm's son, who got his high-profile job at Caribbean Airlines because of his father's influence, and how Calm himself used the full weight of his office to have the TTPS find his son's phone. No. Listen, I read that paragraph and I thought to myself, anybody who follows news in Trinidad and Tobago would know better, would understand better. But still, let me break it down for you. Imbert's son, Adrian Imbert, stopped working at Caribbean Airlines since 2018. He hasn't been working at Caribbean Airlines since. That's one. So he's not an employee of CAL. So this piece of foolishness here is utter bullshit. But if you wanted to argue that Imbert got his son a high-profile job, then you need to understand this. Adrian Imbert has a degree in aerospace engineering. Let that sink in for a couple seconds. If you have a degree, your first degree is in aerospace engineering, doesn't it make sense that you would work in the airline industry? Does it not make sense? And are you coming to seriously tell me that somebody with an aerospace engineering degree, right, would not be deemed suitable for work with an airline? Like, no? Like, huh? So, and then with respect to the thing about using the full weight of his office to have the TTPS find the son's phone. When the son's phone was stolen in 2018, I don't know how many of you all remember this, but Calm Imbert was acting as Prime Minister in the week that the phone was stolen. All you need to understand something. When a person is acting as Prime Minister, there's a certain amount of security that surrounds them, right? So even as a minister, there's a certain amount of security that will surround you. Why? Because you are dealing up with sensitive information on a daily basis, especially if you're doing things like, let's say, finance and having to sign off on loans and those kinds of things, right? In that week, Imbert was functioning as the Prime Minister because our sitting Prime Minister was out of the country, which means he's the acting Prime Minister, which means he would have had special branch dealing up with, which means if your son's phone has been stolen and there's a possibility that data moving back and forth between you and your son, there could be sensitive information, sensitive messages from him to his son and from the son back to him. And this isn't stuff that I have to make up. That week, Imbert did an interview on TV6 with Fazir Mohammed, and in that interview, he was asked questions about it. So he pointed out that it was sensitive, they had to be careful because it's him sending messages to his son, back and forth, basic stuff. But instead, what do we choose to do? Or rather, I should say, what does Suzette choose to do? Suzette chooses to attack somebody that she knows can't respond on an issue. Adrian can't respond on any of these issues. And she attempts to make as if there was some sort of special or privileged favors granted to him with respect to his hiring at CAL when he would have submitted for a job that he is very qualified for. Then the next thing she wanted me to weigh in on is Dr. Rowley using the full weight of his office to fly his daughter in. I don't need to weigh in on that, Suzette, because the Prime Minister himself answered questions about this at a press conference. And the Minister of Health responded to questions on this at a press conference. And the then Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, answered questions on this at a press conference. They indicated when the daughter would have submitted her request for exemption, and they let the listening public. So if you didn't listen, Suzette, I can't help you. I can't help you. My work is not to come back and tell you about all of the things that you missed because you was too busy taking instructions from your handlers and them to follow the news. this business here with Fitzgerald Hines, me even know that Fitzgerald Hines have a son. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm not even bothering to respond to that. But what I will say is this. Suzette took this post where she got 8 comments and 84 shares and conflated a series of lies. A series of lies, right? But what she made sure and did was she called names, strung a lie together, then call a name, then strung a lie, then call a name, then strung a lie. What I want you all to figure out is this. This is the pattern. This is the pattern that you're going to find with a number of these trolls or these sources that are basically there to distort information. So I want you to look for the patterns. Instead of sending me the screenshots to ask me, Rhoda, this is true? Rhoda, you know it is going on here? I want you to start to look at the patterns and on their self-same threads, when you see it, call out the pattern. Because she makes a false accusation here, right? I could easily decide to go the route of litigation and say, well, I suing Suzette Lowe for defamation because she's saying here that I am managing Imbert's Facebook page. It's a full-on lie. It is a total damn lie. There's nothing like that going on. But what has me concerned is not the lie, because Suzette going to lie. That's Suzette default mode. Suzette just get up and still lie, right? That's, What has me concerned here is the way in which she strings lies together. And she strings lies together. And because of how she strings the lies together, people are likely to believe the lies. And that's where it becomes dangerous. Because the small lie gets built into a consistently bigger lie. And she repeats these lies on a regular basis. So, I've done this live this evening where I've said that she is a liar. By tomorrow morning, she's going to put up a post, or maybe tonight she's going to put up a post. And in the post, she's going to be putting more and more things, more and more lies. Because here's what she wants. This motherfucker wants me to consistently come out and respond to her lies. And say, well, no, this is not true. And no, this is a lie. I don't plan to come out and respond to this motherfucker's regular lies, right? That's not what I'm going to be doing. But I want you all to understand that this is how Suzette operates. One, she have a handler, right? And she handler promise she, wherever it is she handler promise she. Two, she will come and she will call names and she will string information together that is inaccurate, and she will conflate ideas that have no relationship to one another at all. Because me not handling somebody's Facebook page does not give anybody a right to utilize state resources to his or her own personal benefit, which is what she is implying there. And I found it incredibly dangerous that she was actually suggesting that Griffith was involved in securing a position for his son on a football team. Because that's what she does there, right? She is basically saying that because I handling somebody's Facebook page, that I not in a position to criticize Griffith for securing a position for his son on a football team. I never say he secured a position for his son on a football team. I've interviewed Lasana and asked, is that what the information you have is showing you? Right? And Lasana, through the investigative report on Wired 868, has pretty much shown that there's a suggestion, there's an implication, right? That there is more to the son's selection on the national team than just raw talent. But Suzette Lowe, first paragraph in this post, suggests that she thinks that Gary Griffith secured a position for his son on the football team. And I thought to myself, wow, what a thing to let slip in the middle of your post, Suzette. Like how? What does you know about Gary Griffith and his son and the football team that we don't know? Spill the beans, Suzette. right? Spill the beans. And then when we get down to the very last paragraph, you see this holla at me, baby girl? It feeds into the same language that you saw Kirk Megu using in the press release that he did, right? The oh oops and holla at me, baby girl. Listen, you see this effort that they're making to sound like manga characters, like little anime characters. I glad for you. Who wanna sound like hey, right? Like little teenage girls. I glad for you. Me, as a grown woman, I have no problem sounding like a grown woman. I have no problems being a grown woman. But I ain't there with Suzette and them with this little girl thing. Me ain't there with all that little girl behavior. So, Susie Q, Susie Low, Susie Suze, you knock yourself out. There is, before we get into listening to Joker's music, there is one other thing I wanted to reference. As a matter of fact, I need to send an image over to somewhere. And when I have sent that image over to somewhere, then we will be able to jump into this part of this part of the thing. Good. Let me save it. All right. I see the AG going to have an AG Talk series. Woohoo! From Sunday evening. So he's going to start discussing the law on a live. Interesting. Nice. Good stuff. Good stuff. There's the image. Let me give all a little peep. This just flying my inbox there. So it looks like from 8 o'clock on a Sunday evening, the Attorney General is going to be doing lives to discuss the law. Nicely done. Faris is going to be a whole podcaster. He ain't just doing a space. He doing a live. That means I had to do my live and done in time to be able to settle down and watch Faris when the evening come. Look how Vonnet had thing to watch when the Sunday evening come. Woo, Vonnet, how you gonna make out, girl? All right. So here we go. Let's look at this. All right. Now, I'm not weighing in on the entire issue. And I'm not weighing in on the entire issue because I'm really making an effort to have a panel discussion on this because this issue is a very nuanced issue. So this is part of the packaging that would have been in the box for the whole Juve rum. All you know about the Juve rum controversy, right? Everybody know what all the noise that took place and people were up in their fields and whatever. But there are a couple questions that I want to ask here. Badly. I see Laverne Brown say, bring back my father. Yeah, I'll bring my dad back. I mean, I know I was real enjoying the conversation with my dad. Juve is part of our carnival. And I feel that as a people, we ain't sure and we ain't clear about our carnival and where our carnival starts from and where our carnival stems from. And for me, this whole Juve rum topic, it got me very tired very quickly. And it got me very tired very quickly for one very basic reason. Culture here is something that is owned by the people or should be it should be owned and protected by the people, right? Culture here is something that also should be nurtured by the people. You don't want a situation where you have government dictating to you how to do culture and to tell you how to do things when it comes to culture. Because government interference could easily stifle a culture. And in my opinion, there are ways in which government interference or government involvement has, to some extent, stifled the development of certain art forms because people start getting very focused on funding and money and how to get money, and they focus on how to get money and how to make money based on the culture, has them wanting to focus on particular ideas and concepts of how to put out the culture. So what go sell, right? So you have people very focused on what go sell all the time. And for me, that's where state funding of culture and cultural products is problematic. Now, Trinidad is easily one of the last colonies or one of the last places in the Caribbean to have been developed and colonized, right? We were late colonies. And actually, Tobago is an older colony than we are, because Tobago developing as a colony since the 1600s. Whereas, even though Spain would have landed here to squat and plunder since 1490 whatever, and they make attack back in the 1500s and started to set up towns and villages here, our settlement and development as a colony really and truly kicked off in the late 1700s, right? So 1783. Today, I looking at a whole bunch of people talking about carnival and talking about Juve and talking about where we send our carnival to up the islands. And I paused and I thought to myself, it can't be that we have so many persons here who are practitioners of carnival, who are practitioners of various aspects of the art form, that are unaware of where and how the roots of this thing began. So carnival, as we practice it here in the Caribbean, right, especially the French-speaking Caribbean, because I have to talk about the French-speaking Caribbean because Juve is a French-speaking word. Carnival, as it is practiced in the French-speaking Caribbean or territories in the Caribbean that would have had French settlement, is old. And it's a combination of a European festival and West African ritualistic art forms, right? There is a lot of ritual involved in our carnival because of West African influence. So 1783, and I've spoken about the cedula of population, not in news source, but certainly during doing lives. 1783, we had roughly 20,000 French Creoles and their enslaved and their enslaved people come here and settle here, right? The Spanish crown gave roughly 20,000 French Creole whites with their enslaved persons land in Trinidad and Tobago to settle on. And the amount of land you got, because I talked all about land and land ownership here already, the amount of land you got was based on how many slaves you had as well as how many white persons came. So if you were white, you were entitled to 32 acres of land. And if you had a slave, each slave entitled you to 16 acres of land. So if you showed up here and you had about 5 or 6 slaves, each slave you could claim 16 acres of land based on each enslaved person, right? So the cedula of population, that's when we started having French Creole culture in the island of Trinidad. So our carnival culture and our practicing of a carnival culture would have happened when the French Creoles got here. And do you know where those French Creoles came from? Those French Creoles that came here, whether it's the white French Creole or their enslaved persons, came here from Haiti, Guadeloupe, St. Lucia, Grenada. So the carnival practices that we have here in Trinidad and Tobago is as a result of French Creole and African French Creole culture from other parts of the Caribbean. You might be asking yourself, where am I going with this? And let me tell you, where am I going with this? I'm going to ask Holly the question now. If the carnival culture that we have here is as a result of French Creole and African French Creole persons, and when I'm talking about African French Creole, I mean black people, African descended persons who would have been enslaved in places like Haiti, Guadeloupe, St. Lucia, Grenada, because those were French colonized islands. So black people coming from those islands coming here. If our culture here, our French Creole culture here, is as a result of those other places, how do we get to then say we own carnival? How? Because once you start talking about we own carnival, all of these other spaces will then turn around and say to you, but how you could own carnival and it's people from our islands, right, that migrated to your island that would have bring the carnival there, right? So I'm starting now to ask questions of ownership, because we talking the talk about ownership and who own what and who could lay claim to what. So you have West Africans, right, that would have been taken from Africa, and they have their traditions and their rituals from Africa. And then they get to the Caribbean and they are enslaved in the Caribbean, right? Robbed of identity, but they continue to practice their rituals in a particular way. And they mask those identities under French, the French version of carnival, right? The French Catholic carnival. And persons from these various islands then move from those various islands and they are brought here. And when they are brought here, they bring all of those cultural practices here. The Juve that we practice here, right, has its roots from African French Creole culture that came from other parts of the Caribbean, right? So let we start there. So our jab culture is as a result. If you look, you will see that there's a huge similarity between our jab, the jab that we have here, and jab culture in Grenada, right? There are other aspects of our carnival. You look at carnival in Haiti, you look at carnival in Guadeloupe, you look at carnival in St. Lucia, you look at carnival in Grenada, and there are a number of similarities in terms of the characters, in terms of the costuming, in terms of how colors are being deployed and used, right? So we starting there, right? We starting there. Who determining and who deciding who own the carnival and who own the culture, right? And who own Juve? That's the first question. Then the next thing I want to look at is this. Our carnival here in Trinidad and Tobago is a carnival that everybody proud of. They're proud to talk about. But we don't talk about the rituals that have fed the carnival, the rituals that have made the carnival into the vibrant thing that it, and I'm going to say it was, right? Because I don't think that we still have the best carnival in the world. Now that might be my opinion. It might have plenty people out there who still think that we have the best carnival in the world. But my concern is that our carnival here has become so commercialized and so focused on packaging and selling itself in a particular way that it has forgotten to nurture the rituals that made it into a vibrant festival. So we don't pay enough attention to nurturing musical forms. We don't pay enough attention to nurturing all of the folk forms and the rituals that are housed within the thing, right? So stick fighting. How much stick fighting does really take place? And now, if you hear that NCC ain't funding the stick fighting can't take place. So state funding has a critical role to play. And one of the things that I realized from this pandemic, the minute the government said that it's not funding a carnival and it's not having a carnival, I realized that it had plenty of people who seem to not be able to make a mass. They're not able to do carnival, to perform carnival, unless they have state funding, which for me is a very, 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 it's a useful thing to look at. Because if carnival is an art form, you ain't supposed to need money to create. Creation is supposed to be an impulse, right? Creating, if you are creative, right? If you are into art and art form, you impulsively create. Like you cannot not create. If you're a songwriter, you can't not create and write a song. If you are a mask maker, you can't not make a costume. Whatever you can't not do it because you are compelled to do it. You are driven to do it. But we are at a point where culturally there is a lot here that doesn't get done, can't get done if the government and the state don't fund it, right? So there's been that aspect to carnival. that aspect of festival, that aspect of culture. So it's our culture has become very monetized and very driven by market and demand and supply. That is what drives it. So the things that people are running after, that is what will get developed. So people has run down fat. We produce a lot of fats here. We produce a lot of parties. We produce a lot of events. Right? We will make a lot of rum and sell a lot of rum. And White Oak will have a range of flavors of rum. Because they know people like fat and people like to drink. Right? So you're not going to find money being pumped into the things that are less interesting. Unless, of course, the state has decided we have to protect this, we had to keep this alive, so we will put some money in it. But the state will also make a decision to not put as much money into certain things. So that's why there would have been a point in time where Soca Monarch getting hototo among some money. Millions and tens of millions of dollars to run a Soca Monarch, right? And then things like stick fighting and limbo and can't get no money. Can't see the light of day with money. So the monetization, money drives a lot of things here. The other thing I wanted to look at is how Juve, the ritual, how that in and of itself has evolved. Juve, when I was a child, was a free event, you know. You pick up yourself, you put on old dirty clothes that you could afford to get tear up and to get mud and paint on, and you head out to wherever. You make your little placard if you have a little old mask that you want to make. You used to make your own little old mask costume. And you go out and you find, well, in my case, sometimes you find a little truck or you find a steel band or whatever it is, and you follow it, right? This would have been 80s and 90s. Then eventually, Juve started to get, I would say, more organized. So bands and music truck and all of those things used to be taking place. You have band and music truck. And then Juve became a paid thing where you had to pay to get a costume, right? A shredded t-shirt and maybe a tights or something like that, so to play Juve. Now when you go out, you had to have a wristband on your hand to play Juve. When you go out to play Juve, you have rope, right? Wrong the truck to play Juve, which is a festival for a ritual within the festival that's supposed to be for people. Carnival's supposed to be a festival of the people, you know. That is what Carnival's supposed to be a festival of. The first time I know you could pay to play Juve is in Tong. I was 18 years old and a friend of mine said to me, she signed up to play Juve with a band. I'm not going to call the name of the band because this week is the week I find out on Twitter and other parts of social media that people think that band create Juve, right? And I nearly did. I had to let people know, listen, I playing Juve since I was a child. Other people who older than me playing Juve since them was child. And the ancestors playing Juve since them was child. And the ancestors playing Juve since them was child. So it ain't have no band from the last 30 or 40 years that create Juve. That might be the band that created paid Juve, but it ain't have no band in existence right now that created Juve at all. So you have a number of persons who seem to think that Juve as a ritual is something you had to pay to play in a rip-up t-shirt with security and rope in a band, right? There are people who think that is their concept of Juve. That is not my concept of Juve. And a lot of these self-same persons that are suddenly protectors of the culture are the very persons who, in various ways, have sought to ignore the value of ritual in the culture, right? And so that's the value of ritual in the culture. You need ritual in a culture to feed a culture, to keep a culture alive. And I could understand wanting to protect and preserve aspects of ritual to be able to keep a culture alive. Now, let's jump to another issue. This particular rum product, to the best of my knowledge, the owner of the rum product or the owner of the business is a person of Trinidadian descent. That's my understanding. I think the person's name is Scott Williams. If I have the name wrong, Beach, hit my correction on the comment feed if I have the name wrong. But I believe the person who owns the rum company and who also owns the bar called Last Lap is a person of Trini descent. If he ain't born in Trinidad, his parents born in Trinidad. Either which way, he have Trini roots. Now, let me tell all you why I raising this issue of this young man, or this person who is the owner here. One of the things that was said, that was claimed on the weekend, on the weekend when I saw what was taking place, they claim that Michael B. Jordan has appropriated somebody else's culture, right? So Michael B. Jordan has appropriated another culture. So here's the thing. If Michael B. Jordan is an investor in a company and the company is owned by a person of Trini descent, how can a Trinidadian who wants to have a rum called Juve be appropriating his own culture? Because I want all you to understand something. Cultural appropriation is when somebody outside of a culture takes the culture, uses the culture, makes money from the culture, but the people who own the culture can't make any money off of it. That's what cultural appropriation is. So let me say I come up with a dance and somebody else, somebody from another country come and take my dance and make money off my dance, and I can't make money off the dance that I come up with. That is cultural appropriation. But if Scott Williams has a business and has sought to get investors in the business, how are we deciding that Scott Williams is appropriating his own culture? And how are we then deciding that Michael B. Jordan, as an investor in the business, is an appropriator? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I thought that whole business of cultural appropriation, it was hard for me to wrap my brain around the accusations of cultural appropriation when a Trinidadian in and of himself was part of this entire business deal. And very often in the conversations that I was seeing online, many people didn't seem to know that that Michael B. Jordan's business partner was a person that had Trini roots. So if a Trinidadian is looking to monetize this thing, then how are we turning around and saying that the Trinidadian does not have a right to use or claim aspects of the culture that I imagine he's linked to? So that's that business about culture and cultural appropriation. I think that the term cultural appropriation is probably being used loosely here, and me no. No, Dolores, if Marshall Montano decided to make Juneteenth rum with an African-American person, and they're both partnering on it, then the African-American person is utilizing a culture. I mean, what Marshall would be functioning as there would be an investor. That's what he would be functioning as. He's not trying to take over anybody else's culture. And the African-American person would be benefiting in much the same way. So, but let me get back to the whole idea of appropriation. We have people here, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, that have appropriated culture. And let me break this down for you. And then this is where I will pause from talking about this particular issue, because I really want to wait until we bring on the panel. But there are people here in Trinidad who are appropriating culture. There are people here in Trinidad who don't like black people, who wouldn't sniff on black people, who wouldn't even piss on black people. They knows nothing about West African culture. They knows nothing about the roots of carnival. They don't know nothing about Orisha. When they hear Orisha, they think Orisha is Obia, right? They think Orisha nasty, right? If you turn around and you ask them anything about the various Orisha deities that are part and parcel of Trinidad Carnival, they knows nothing about it. If you turn around and you ask them to sing a lavwe, they knows nothing about it. They don't know where Kalinda songs come from. They don't know that Kalinda songs is the root of Calypso and Soca, right? They don't know which culture Kalinda songs come from. They don't know why Kalinda songs so tied in with stick fight. They don't know nothing, and none of them thing. None of them thing. But they're good to jump up with their accent, right? Because, carnival is ours. Oh my God. The same people who does be behind rope when carnival Monday and Tuesday come, jump up all over Twitters and social media to complain about we culture and we culture and we culture. And I paused and I thought to myself, these are the same people that have cannibalized our culture. So for you to turn around and call Michael B. Jordan a vulture, a culture vulture, when you for yourself, right, functioning like a damn kobo over the culture, the very culture that you know very little about, I pause and I say to myself, these people, they're good, they're real good. They're real good. Ask them to explain the root of the very festival that they has been making hototo money off of. They can't tell you a damn thing. If you turn around and you ask them now about Indian mass, right, the fancy Indian mass, they will tell you that the fancy Indian mass that we play in here is as a result of our indigenous presence. None of them know that it is as a result of Western cinema. That is where fancy Indian mass come from, right? That is what has influenced fancy Indian mass. I'm not talking about Warao mass. I'm not talking about Black Indian mass. That's not what I'm talking about. Black Indian mass, that's a different thing, right? Fancy Indian mass, that's as a result of cinema, Western cinema that we have been getting here. So when I pause and I'm looking at the comments and I'm looking at the conversations and I'm looking at the things that people saying, and I'm looking at these people, these self-same people, organizing mass when the year come, and they organizing mass in band that using rope on the road. And you see me, once you using rope on the road, you're not in a position to talk about culture here. Once you are part of the rope using culture in carnival, once you there and you upholding the use of rope in a street festival, you're not in a position to talk about protecting no culture. Because that very rope that you're using to protect you on the road, you're using that rope to strangle the culture. Right? To strangle the damn culture. That is what all you're doing. All you're happy to have black people stand up with jersey mark security holding rope around light-skinned people on the road when Carnival Monday and Tuesday come. Right? Black people, all you're maintaining colorism in the mass. A festival that is supposed to be a festival of the people. All you will have black fellas in t-shirt mark security holding rope to keep all you safe around the carnival. And then all you want to come and shit and tell me about protecting the culture? Kiss my ass. Anyhow, let me move into something lighter, right? Something a little bit more favorable. Because the minute I start to talk about carnival and talk about ritual and talk about what people know and what people understand and what people don't understand, and the way in which carnival here continues to represent a whole set of segregation and a whole set of ignorance and myopia, I just get hot. So let me try to not be too hot this evening, because I really want to save the conversation for later down in the week, once I could get together all of the persons I want to get together, so we could talk about intellectual property and talk about culture, preserving culture. Because you see, to preserve culture here is hard work, It's very hard work. It takes more than getting onto social media and starting a petition and making a set of noise and making a set of war. It takes way more than that. If we want to preserve culture, nurture the culture, and have the culture feed into the marketing of Trinidad and Tobago. Because me have a problem with preserving culture and letting the culture feed into a festival that is so vibrant that it could promote Trinidad and Tobago to the world. Anyhow, let me get into something lighter. Let me listen to some music. So, Winford Devines. This is my way of paying tribute to fellas like Winford Devines. So this is one of my favorite songs. Anthony Morgan Beach, this is for you.
Always make me family shake. Like Marianne all day, all night. A staggering high like a kite. It's Christmas.
All you know this song? Which song is this?
I could prepare wrong trust. Give me belly fast. I love to be drunk and it's family. Always in custody with friends and the family. Always put up with me cause I'm drunk and it's family. Every weekend I'm in the jail. Drunk and it's family. Nobody to stand me there.
So this song, this is a big, big, big tune. And this song is a song that had plenty bacchanal between Joker and Sparrow, because Joker wrote the song for Sparrow. At least this is how the story go, right? Joker write the song for Sparrow, and Sparrow never gave Joker any credit on the song. And then there was plenty fighting between the two of them, and Sparrow eventually, I think, admitted that yes, Joker had a part to play in the writing of this particular song, right? So that is, for those of you who know it, that is Drunk and Disorderly. Let me give you this one too. Here's the next one from Sparrow. Yes, now I want to make sure I start it at the right point. So just now, go in. Let me see if I know this one.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. Don't back on me. Don't back.
What's that? When I'm done with all of this evening, I go in and fet quietly. I can zest by myself.
Man, you only jamming, don't make pan with your bam bam. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
So y'all know that one, right? This one, that's Do Back Back. Right? Do Back Back. Right. Then there's this one, which is one of my, there's a lot of music that he did for Sparrow, eh? Let me see how many of you all. Oh, just now. Let me go in a couple seconds.
Philip, my dear, last night I thought was you in
Well, you know this one?
Where did you go? Working for good old England, missing out all the action. My dear, do you know?
There was a man in my bedroom
wearing your shoe, trying on the royal costume, dipping in the royal perfume. I'm telling you true.
All you know that song? All you know what that song is about? All you know the reason behind that song? Queen Elizabeth was sleeping in she bed at night, and when she wake up, there was a stranger, an intruder that sat down in she bedroom talking to she. Right? That song is an entire classic. Let me do our next one. Let me see how much all you know this one. Just now. Let me go in for a bit. Far in. Right.
Somebody nice, somebody sweet, 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 sweet. I want somebody to love up, somebody to squeeze up, somebody to jump up, and everything will be irene.
All you know this one, right? Happy. I want somebody to hug up in the party. Let me see. Where's our next one? Now I'm gonna leave that one for the very end. Let me see if I remember this one. Let me see if I know this one. How far you have to go with this one, boy? Oh, I gotta go in away with this one just now. Let me see. Follow. Know this one.
For just a little while, and they laughed in utter amusement.
All you know this one? Who is this? Tell me who this
To
is.
show people what I got, and they start with critical comment. They say I'm a little boy, I'm too young to sing.
All you know this one?
About people spreading joy, better party and sing. They say I should concentrate on winning the junior prom, because I
Oh, remember the dance?
a few more years to go.
They say I'm too young to soca. All you know that one, right? All you had to know that one. All you had to know that one. Let me play one more from MM. Let me see if all you know this one that Joker write for Marshall. Let me see how well all you know. Let me see what the kind of music all you know. Let me see all you know. How far you had to go with this one, boy? Ooh, I had to go in pretty far with this one. Just now. Alright. Let me see if all you know this one.
I am a victim of disillusion, a soul without a resting place.
Who is this?
Lonely pilgrim without a vision, a wanderer in time and space.
Yep. Yes, Corey.
Going from
Country to country. 1991, if I'm not mistaken. Take Me Back, Africa.
searching for my identity. It's time for me to come home.
I want to be in your arms again. Take me back, Africa. Okay, let me try our next one. Let me see. Which ones I do? I do this one. I do that one. I do that. I do that. I'm leaving that for last. I do that. Oh, let me play this one. Let me see how much I Let me see who know tune. Yes, now let me go in.
Today, when I look around in the world, what do I see? I see footprints that man
Who know the song?
left understand while walking through times. I see fruits of our ambitions, figments of our imagination, and I ask myself,
Oh, you know that one, right? Progress from King Austin. Yes. And I'm gonna wrap it up here. Here now, me know how all it is have me talking for 90 minutes and thing, you know. Me know how all it is have me talking for 90 minutes. I'm wrapping it up here. All you must know this one. All you must know this. All you're going and get is the guitar. That is all. Just the guitar. Right? Listen to that guitar, no, man. Folks, I will see you all on Friday. Thank you so much for joining me.